Hello. I am going to give you a brief introduction to satire today. So, first of all, my name is Larissa Coe. Here is an old picture of me. Here we are. So, satire is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues. So this is what I found when I just Googled it. This is from Oxford, and I think it's a pretty good definition overall. So let's break it down a little bit. So some of the things that satire includes are humor, irony, exaggeration, and ridicule. And those things are pretty easy to find, but to determine if something truly is satire, this next part is important. The purpose of this humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule needs to be to expose and criticize in order for it truly to be satire. If you see some use of exaggeration, such as my phone takes 20 years to download anything, then you have to ask yourself, is that trying to expose and criticize something? Why, yes, it is. It's criticizing the phone or the phone company or Bill Gates, if you want to get real personal. It is trying to expose and criticize, even though it's a pretty small issue. But if I were to say something like, my fish was bigger than all of the other fish put together, then you're not trying to expose or criticize anything, even though you are exaggerating. So when you're looking at satire, you really want to try to figure out what it's trying to expose or criticize. And I think this is important to note. Satire is often funny, but it is rarely nice. So it's not going for kind. It's not going to win the Cinderella Award, if there was one. It is actually meant to shock people. And saying nice things doesn't always get a lot of attention. And the goal of satire is to get attention so that they can then expose and criticize whatever they're exposing and criticizing to a larger audience that's paying more attention. And this, hopefully, ideally, it will lead to change. So if enough people post online about how their phone takes 2 years to download anything, then the goal is that hopefully that would get a lot of attention, and then maybe in a dream world things would change so that it doesn't have to take so long to download things. Just going off our old example there. I would say the reason that satire can be funny is because it's supposed to be shocking. And a lot of times the same type of situations or words that make things shocking can also make them funny. A lot of times the unexpected and humor go hand in hand. And here is my first example for you, written by yours truly a few seconds ago. So satire is using exaggeration in this instance. And another word for exaggeration is hyperbole, but they mean the same thing. So, what do you know? Another shiny teenage model is getting married to a 100-year-old geezer for his money. I bet they don't even know each other's middle names. He just wants to put her on display next to his car collection. She's just in it for the money. So every sentence, almost, except maybe the first one, uses exaggeration in this example. So another shiny teenage model is getting married to a 100-year-old geezer for his money. So 100-year-old is probably an exaggeration. I know that I made up a fictional example, but if it was a real person, it's unlikely that they'll be 100 years old. That's just such a square number and very, very old. And then people aren't literally shiny, usually. And sometimes we call people models who don't actually make money for doing modeling work. So those could all be exaggerations. And then getting married for his money, that could be a contributing factor, but we don't know if it actually is just for his money. We don't know these imaginary people. And then I bet they don't even know each other's middle names. Well, normally people getting married probably do. It's an exaggeration because maybe they don't know each other very well, and so on. There's a lot of exaggerations in this, and you can tell that it is criticizing this type of situation. And if these were real people, it would be criticizing the people. Okay, the other technique we're going to talk about to create satire is called irony. And irony is saying the opposite of what you mean. And there are other definitions for things like situational irony and things like that, but we're not going to talk about those. We're going to focus on irony and the definition saying the opposite of what you mean. You probably hear it, possibly use it all the time, and call it sarcasm. And a lot of what you say and call sarcastic probably is, but a lot of it also probably isn't. The way to tell something is sarcasm is that it is the meanest form of irony and it is meant to hurt the target. So it's not just a casual, maybe kind of funny offhand statement about how, like, I love getting stuck in traffic. That's irony because you're saying the opposite of what you mean, but you're not trying to be hurtful. If you were to say something super mean, like, if you were to say Aunt Muriel and her rock collection are the most interesting people in the whole freaking world, then that is edging towards sarcasm because you're trying to be deliberately mean to the person you're targeting. So, just to recap, irony is saying the opposite of what you mean, and sarcasm is a type of irony that is always meant to hurt whoever or whatever you're talking about. So here's my example of satire using irony, and I chose to keep with the same topic just to show the different techniques without changing too much around. So Glazella, 18, and Howard, 88, are about to embark on a long, quiet lifestyle of mutual interests, shared responsibilities, and complete understanding and respect. Glazella's parents were overjoyed to meet Howard, and Howard's children were even more excited to learn about their new stepmama. I can't believe I got so lucky, shouted Rosanna, 66, just before her father's wedding. So again, in almost every sentence, I tried to include some irony. This is saying the opposite of what I mean. So in this imaginary situation, I don't imagine that an 18-year-old and an 88-year-old would have a long life together, or that it would be quiet, or there would be a lot of shared interests and responsibilities, etc. So I said the opposite to kind of highlight how ridiculous it sounds, and therefore show how ridiculous the real situation actually is. And then again with the parents, Glazella's parents were overjoyed to meet Howard, and Howard's children were even more excited to learn about their new stepmama. And you can see I inserted the ages of the people in here just to show the truth and kind of the problem without breaking character and making it seem like this actually is what I mean. So, for example, I can't believe I just got so lucky, shouted Rosanna, 66, just before her father's wedding. So, because she is 66 years old, I can only imagine it would be weird to have an 18-year-old stepmother. So, that is highlighting the weirdness with that one. And here's a quick recap. Satire uses various techniques, including exaggeration, irony, and ridicule, to expose and criticize people, groups of people, social problems, especially political ones. Satire is often funny, again, because of the shock value and things fitting together that normally wouldn't go together. Satire is rarely kind. It's not praise and niceties, and if it is, it's probably sarcastic. It is meant to shock people and get attention. That is part of the reason it's not supposed to be kind. It's because it's supposed to get your attention. Exaggeration is also called hyperbole and is a common technique used in satire. Irony is saying the opposite of what you mean, or a few other things that we didn't talk about. And sarcasm is a mean type of irony. That concludes this quick presentation. If you have questions, go ahead and message your teacher for more information. And enjoy reading some satire.